disturbing, but we shall see how the very small wind protector on here, see how it does. So today we are continuing reading through Karma by Sadhguru. I did mention last week that there may be some difficulty for me to continue reading, but for the time being I'll do what I can. And there may be potential breaks when the reading of this book is not done, and then episodes when I return and perhaps there's more to share with the book. So we left off in the middle of chapter 1, or I should say part 1, and chapter 1, the eternal enigma, and we were midway through the section, the Karmic Cycle. And just to pick up immediately from, not sure if we read this line, I'm pretty sure we did, but it said, in other words, karma is like old software that you have written for yourself unconsciously. So we can understand our tendencies and our habits. Some may have only formed over months, some years or decades, where something may happen, and how we react to it is, if it's unconsciously, it's done by our old, whatever software has programmed us. The karmic mechanism is ceaseless. Every mental fluctuation in you creates a chemical reaction, which then proceeds to provoke a physical sensation. This sensation in turn reinforces the chemical reaction, which then strengthens the mental fluctuation. Over time, your very chemistry is determined by a series of unconscious reactions to sensory and mental stimuli. And there's an example given underneath this passage, and he invites us to think about something that's exciting and to feel those sensations that occur in the body. And this is an example of verification that a mental fluctuation, chemical reaction, and that whatever happens in the mind, it says, immediately imprints itself on the body as a chemical process. So again, we're just understanding the cycle of karma, and this is a big part of the cycle. We look at the software, and this is the mechanism within it. Mental fluctuation, chemical reaction. And it is pointed that the cycle itself, this cycle is, if you use the word vicious, which maybe can induce a bit of fear when reading this, it certainly affected me as I've read this, that it can also impact the mental strain that can affect the physical strain on the body. But of course this is only done in an unconscious way, unconscious thinking. And the unconscious mind is therefore a tremendous library of karmic memory. You would find this information very useful if you were approaching it consciously. The problem is that it manifests all the time without your permission. You feel like one big mess because you are punching your psychological keyboard randomly all the time. So in this way, the imprints, the karmic impressions, are happening all the time. And it can feel like you cannot bring these to a halt. This is the nature of dealing with karma, of action, of thought in the body or energy, and when it happens unconsciously. So this gives us a great window into almost underneath the hood of the car that we can refer to in a moment as life itself. And being behind the wheel of the car, I guess, would be presence. You're in the state of conscious creation. And maybe karma's being dissolved as this is happening. And perhaps if you unconsciously go into the back seat and your software is now in the driver's seat, it's running it, it's creating these imprints, it is continuing cycles. That's my understanding of this. So again, the answer to, there's lots of detail here, the answer is being in the here and now. And the next section of this, I think this is chapter 1 still. Let's go back to the contents. Yeah, part 1, chapter 1. Yeah, internal enigma. So now we are in the next section within this chapter called the tedium and tyranny of karma. And I might read a short passage from here. The level at which the compulsiveness of karma operates may surprise you. When you walk into an auditorium or conference room, the seat you choose may seem like a decision you made freely, but often a level of karmic compulsion is involved. If you attend the same conference or class for the next 5 days, you may notice that you are likely to sit in the same place each day. Many years ago, when I was training teachers to impart my inner engineering program in different places, the new trainee teachers would often ask, "Sadhguru, what kind of questions are students likely to ask?" What can we expect, and how do we deal with it? So I made a chart for them of the arrangement of the class and told them, see, if a person comes and settles down here, this is the kind of question they are going to ask. If a participant settles down there, that is what they are going to ask. Now, of course, there were exceptions. A latecomer might choose a place based only on the seat that is available, but 90% of the time it happened exactly the way I said it would. That is how predictable karma is. So karma is not some external system of crime and punishment. It is an internal cycle generated by you. These patterns are not oppressing you from without, but from within. Externally, it may be a new day. You may have a new job, a new home, a new life partner, a new baby. You may even be in a new country. But internally, you are experiencing the same cycles, the same internal oscillations, the same behavioral shifts, the same mental reactions, the same psychological tendencies. So again, when reading this, it can be difficult to guard from the mind, because the mind may take this as we're reading, and it may be, going into a panic or a plan or some reaction that it's not my fault that all of this has been generated. It may oppose or react to this. But you can sense in yourself the mental structures. That phrase is often mentioned when reading The New Earth, the mental structures, the mental conditioning is being played out. An internal cycle generated by you. And again, it's anything that happens, it's how you react to it, the reaction you give it. Challenges may arise, but when it comes to karma and continuing the cause and reaction, it's how you react. If you're meeting that with presence or you're meeting that with the mind. So nothing will work because you haven't figured out how to change your karma. Something else seems to be pushing your buttons. Someone else seems to be driving your car. And we may find certain situations where it's clear that we're not in a driver's seat, that we may become unconscious, and quite often this can be around people and relationships. When we're around maybe a particular person, more unconsciousness may arise. The person may have a heavy pain body, a heavy mental structures themselves, and it may trigger us to then react out of the mind. So perhaps a moment to reflect if there are certain life situations where you feel you're not in a driver's seat and you're just running old conditioning and reacting from there. It is now talked about here about the cyclical nature of karma. And it says here the karmic information within your system is encoded in different kinds of cycles. The largest cycle is the solar cycle, because everything, animate and inanimate, in this solar system is deeply influenced by the sun. Our planet is no exception. The solar cycle is a period of 4,356 days, nearly 12 years. Someone who lives according to the solar cycle leads a life of great health, well-being, alignment, and minimal friction. As the length of a karmic cycle decreases, life becomes progressively more unbalanced. If your life runs in 3 or 6 month cycles, you are in a serious state of psychological imbalance. The same inner upheavals or life situations will keep recurring every few months. So that's something that really kind of hit home for me in regards to my mental health, and I don't dare to venture my length of my cycle. I can imagine it's very short at the moment in regards to my own upheavals, and but again it's another understanding there of the cycles of collective conditioning. For some of us, maybe day to day, the mood, week to week, there's huge fluctuations in mood. For some it may be every few months, and even this is said to be a serious state of psychological imbalance. So maybe looking at this in a positive way is a great room of growth and stability that is available there once the cycles expand and lengthen. And perhaps the way to look at it is the work that needs to be done versus the state you are in now, where there may be a bit of blame or judgment perhaps. Now, if we do not break these internal and external patterns, nothing new will ever happen. You might have noticed that the more successful you become, the more frustrated you get, because somewhere unconsciously you sense that you are simply going around in circles. You may have learned to ride the cycle, but you are not free from it. And with yogic practices, the aspiration is to move toward the solar cycle, so your balance and stability are assured. You may not be able to change your past action and the mental and emotional karma you accumulated, but you no longer slide into short spin cycles. You no longer wear your karma as a skin-tight garment. You learn to wear it loosely. You hold it at a distance. So my understanding of this is when space comes in to the everyday doing, when your awareness comes in, then reactions and everything becomes spacious. It may be in a very subtle way, but perhaps the sort of catching yourself reacting straight away, there may be a delay and an awareness that, oh, there's some emotions happening here, and I've caught those emotions as they are happening in the body and the thoughts, and immediately you've met that with awareness. And so with this gradual spaciousness there, as it says here, you no longer slide into short spin cycles. So it's not an immediate reaction when something happens. There's perhaps some space where there can be a response, a conscious response to meeting whatever's happening in this moment with that spaciousness, that unconditioned spaciousness. And I'll end this reading for this episode with this final passage here. It does not matter what volumes of karma you have. The moment you start stepping into the subtler dimensions of the etheric and bliss bodies, your karma cannot touch you. The law of cause and effect can operate only on the physical, mental and energy levels. Beyond that, it has no impact. The moment you begin to taste the divine, as it were, your karma has no hold over you. And we will explore this at greater length in part 2 of this book. So, subtler bodies, etheric bliss bodies. But the moment you taste the divine, as it were, your karma has no hold over you. You are now in a driver's seat, as we said before. You are not running the old software, the old conditioning. So we will leave the reading there for the time being. And I am a little bit ahead of the reading we're doing here, so I'm doing what I can to read some in advance, just so I can pick out some selected passages as I scan. And of course, if this book is you resonate with this book, then of course you can support the author Sadhguru, and perhaps the book would be useful to read it from cover to cover versus the brief passages that I'm sharing with you here. But I hope it's of some assistance and we can sort of explore the passages together. Thank you for joining me for this episode, and I will speak to you again very soon. Take care.